Tokyo Olympian Yul Moldauer is one of the stars tonight in Dallas as the elite gymnastics season gets underway. Alongside is Texas native Asher Hong on this Friday night at the Winter Cup in the Lone Star State. NBC Sports welcomes you to the 2022 USA Gymnastics Winter Cup, presented by Turn. The Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, practice facility of the Dallas Cowboys, taken over by the top men's gymnasts in the country at tonight's Winter Cup event. And with that, we welcome you. Hi, everyone. Steve Schlanger with the Olympic gold medalists, Nastia Liukin and also Tim Daggett. And here we are, still 3 years out from the next Summer Olympic Games in Paris in 2024. So we've got a long runway. Why does tonight matter for these gymnasts?
Well, you know, any single time that you put yourself out there on the competition floor, especially at the start of an Olympic cycle, it matters because it's not all just about Olympic trials and doing well there right before Paris, but it is about the consistency and building every single time that you go on the competition floor. They're watching that.
Absolutely, and you know, it's compressed. It's always 4 years. It's only 3 years until Paris. So you have a guy like Yul Moldauer, he only has to hold on for another 3 years, and you got an up-and-comer like Asher Hong, who we just showed, who is just a phenom, who is rushing in to make his mark in the sport of gymnastics.
Well, Yul Moldauer was at the Olympics in Japan. He's also been at the World Championships, one of several athletes with experience on the big stage. And they take over the Ford Center in Frisco on a Friday night in Texas. And the first big men's meet of the season is next. The 2022 Winter Cup, presented by Turn, is brought to you by Prevagen. Prevagen is the #1 pharmacist-recommended memory support brand. By Turn, dedicated solely to the sport of men's gymnastics. And by Ozone, experience the difference. The world corporate headquarters of the Dallas Cowboys seats about 12,000. The Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, and Coy Young, the 20-year-old from Stanford, is about to get us going here as we have 6 rotations in this men's Winter Cup. And it wouldn't be the Winter Cup without winter weather. They've had an ice storm the last few days. A lot of these gymnasts just getting in late, so trying to play catch up to get ready for competition here tonight.
And I'll tell you what, this young man is a super talent. He is so light with his gymnastics. Head coach at Stanford, Tom Galimi, really very, very high on this young man. Does difficult stuff, but he makes it look easy. High bar, not one of his best events, but he has improved here quite a bit.
And just really almost as if he's, oh, that was a great dismount right there. Almost bent his knees a little bit too much, but rushing through just a little bit throughout the whole routine. It was super quick.
Yeah.
Probably wanted to get off as quick as possible when it's not your best event.
Pretty good start for him, though. And this dismount, you know, this shows me a lot about this young man because that was really not a good position to land in, and others could have panicked a little bit, put a hand down, maybe even sat down, but he just kind of rode it like a wave and ended up with a stick.
He was the bronze medalist on the pommel horse last year at this event, but starting on a different event here this evening. Not his favorite, not his best, but he gets it out of the way here early as our first athlete of the evening. When it's a weaker event, do you like to do it first, or would you rather postpone it until later after you've had a few other solid routines under your belt?
For me, it was not first, yeah, but not last either.
As I said, I think you just kind of want to get it over with.
Yeah. We'll see him hopefully on pommel horse, and he is. You can't teach what he has on pommel horse. He's just so incredibly light with his swing and the extension that he has. I mean, he was taught very well. I don't want to say that he wasn't, but it's just he has a naturalness on that event that is special.
This is the first elite competition of the season. Things just getting underway. This will be a qualifying event for other international meets as well as for the U.S. Gymnastics Championships later on this summer. And now here is Asher Hong, just 17 years of age, from right here in the state of Texas, was first in the all-around at this event a year ago in the junior division.
And he has been around for a long time. He has so many junior titles under his belt. He really is kind of a phenom. The amount of difficulty that he is planning to perform here today is right on par with the top 5 gymnasts in the world. He does really, really hard gymnastics.
You know, when someone new is coming onto the field in the senior level and ranking like this, it really just pushes everybody else to upgrade and to be better than they were before.
It took a while, but we finally get the score of Koi Young, 13-1. And now Hong set to go here as he begins his evening on the rings. Was first in the all-around, floor, pommel horse, rings, and bars in the junior competition last year here at this very same Winter Cup.
So challenging to get strong enough at 17 years old to be able to do these strength parts like he's going to do them. Every strength part needs to be held for at least 2 seconds. Nice body position there. That one's called a Maltese. He'll do another one. Entered it from a different angle, so that is allowed. Now you got to swing. And he'll show us a combination. This is a little bit high. Shoulders should be down inside of the rings, and he knows that, his coaches know that, but you know, they are pushing the envelope. Great start so far. Just put it to your feet. Wow. Small hop. Super difficult dismount.
But made it look so easy.
Oh, my goodness. Coach Igor Verny there. Tom Meadows also, one of his coaches right there.
And it was just in November that he verbally committed to go to Stanford after graduating from high school. But first things first.
That's very good start. Absolutely. Just that one strength part that was a little bit high.
Now this is Riley Luce, who was second last year in the all-around and once again should be a contender here for the top step of the podium. Also just missed out on a medal at the Pan Am Championships. A 21-year-old from California.
He just keeps getting better and better. Once again, this probably not Riley's best event. But beautiful start. Great straight body in the air on that release. Another release right here. Very clean. Nice one-arm giant sequence right there. Kind of clipped his feet on the bar. And that
super short on that handstand, major deduction right there. And really every single element is a little bit back to back, and so starting from when he clipped his foot on the bar, really struggled through the second half of that routine. It's so hard to just reset, both mentally and physically, when you have a mistake like that because of every element being connected.
Yeah, that wasn't a good start for him, to be perfectly honest, and he knows that. So here are a couple of his release moves. Nicely done. He wants to stay completely straight on that. I don't give it to him. I give him a pike to Tkachev. And then very nice straddle to Tkachev. One-arm giant swing, pretty good. And watch right there as he's coming out of, this is an endo, his right foot clipped the bar and then has to bend his knees. And as you mentioned, Nastia, right there, that angle very, very low. At least 0.3 of a point on that one skill. I think it could be five. Yes.
And he's a 5-time NCAA All-American at Stanford. And as you mentioned, Nastia, it's one of those events where you don't have the opportunity to reset or recalibrate. You don't have any pauses in the actual routine. You got to keep going. So things just feel sped up and you don't have a chance to step back. As this was Hong's score on the rings, difficulty execution adding up to 14.566.
And that is an excellent score right there for him. Besides the inverted cross, everything else was really good.
And we continue with the Stanford theme here in the early going. Taylor Burkhart, the 19-year-old who hails from Colorado, but a freshman at Stanford, the reigning NCAA champions.
Same private club as Yule Moldauer. They have trained together quite a bit throughout the years. Does a really unique element. Comes up right here. Oh, baby, that is crazy.
And a good recovery from that.
I believe he wanted to connect that right into this skill, into that one. Does just wild gymnastics difficulty throughout the 6 different events. Another big release right there. Just needs to be a little bit cleaner, just a tad bit more refined. Big dismount, double-double, laid out. Small hop on the landing.
Tad cleaner and maybe just a little more patient.
Yeah, absolutely.
Must be hard to be patient, though, in a situation like that, huh?
Yeah, really, a lot of times, too, it can be a little technical.
But look at this right here. Vaults over the bar with an extra 1.5 twist. Done really well, but you see the legs coming apart. I love seeing all that difficulty, but, you know, gymnastics is risk and reward. You do the hard stuff, you get a higher start value, but you can lose points.
Riley Luce on the high bar, 12.300. His score from a few moments ago.
And across the 6 different events, every event is a little bit different in how it's evaluated. High bar is one of the harder events to get a big score on. There are just so many places the judges can nitpick you right to death on this event.
I would say most likely similar on the women's side, it would be the uneven bars. Every single element that you do, every single handstand within just 10 degrees, 30 degrees. It's all down to those tenths.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it every single competition.
Well, Colt Walker was second in the horizontal bar going back 3 years at the U.S. Gymnastics Championships. And that's where, of course, this domestic season will peak coming up in August. He is the U.S. Parallel Bars bronze medalist from a year ago.
He told me, I think I've proved myself as a junior gymnast, but it's time to prove myself on the senior level. And I'll tell you what, he has the ability to do that. Big difficulty. First release, gorgeous. Nicely done, keeps his body nice and straight on that one. He's very good here. He's phenomenal on vaulting and on floor exercise, just off the charts. A little shy on that handstand. When I say something like that, little shy, it means the judges are taking deductions. Double-double laid out. Very, very unusual. That's surprising to see such a bounding step forward for Colt. We saw the same thing from his teammate Riley Lewis. Tom Galimi saying trying to control it too much.
All right, Taylor Burkhart with a 12.700 on the high bar.
So he had a pretty high difficulty, as you can see, but the 7.3 in execution, so 2.7 points deduction because it starts out of a 10.0.
All right, here's Alex Diab, who lives out in Colorado Springs. Diab named an Olympic team alternate for Tokyo after turning in a terrific rings performance back at the Winter Cup a year ago. Also at the U.S. Championships and U.S. Olympic trials, some stellar performances. And now trying to carry that over here into the next Olympic cycle beginning here this evening.
He got to represent the USA at the World Championships in Japan, basically a couple of months after the Olympics. Always been a very powerful, very strong athlete. In men's gymnastics, basically any step that you take is going to be 3/10 off. If you do the smallest little 1 foot adjustment, maybe you'll get only a 1/10 off, but it's typically 3/10. Got to do some type of an element like that. On the floor exercise, there are element groups requirements. Both of those skills fulfill that requirement. And one thing the men are so excited about is on floor exercise, you used to have a maximum of 70 seconds to complete your routine. It was like a race. They have extended that to 75.
And just that step really, but all the way around on that triple twist, that's what the judges are looking for.
It was good, very good. He went to the World Championships because of his still rings, but he feels like he can be impactful on floor exercise and vault. And with just a knock your socks off still rings routines, started with a very difficult combination. This is also challenging, but big step backwards. I would say he loses 6 to 7/10 on that pass.
And here's that dismount. So 3 twists, just a little bit of some form at the very end. But, you know, overall a great routine, but it is still so early in the season for these athletes. First competition, really first major competition of the year. A lot of them have competed at smaller invitationals, but getting out here, getting on the podium, getting ready for the rest of the season.
Colt Walker over on the high bar with a 13.1. Alex Diab just finishing up his floor routine, and it's really his sister who excels on the floor. His sister Maddie, a gymnast at Iowa State, where Alex's father also competed as well. Both Alex and his father, each 2-time rings NCAA champions in their day. And now Yul Moldauer, our first look at the Olympian from Tokyo. Tim, what do you expect from him all around here tonight?
Oh, I think he's going to do great. He has a lot of upgrades that he's trying to do, though. And that is very uncharacteristic for Yul. He's a sticking machine on this event. But he is doing a lot of extra stuff, like that pass right there. made the Olympic finals on floor exercise. His first major senior international event, the World Championships in 2017, he won a medal on this event. Just a young man. Two and a half to a laid out front somersault with a half turn. So he'll also dismount with a triple twist. A little bit of hoppy for Yule, you know?
Yeah, that's something that he really has been well known for at the beginning of his senior career. Didn't always have the highest level of difficulty, but his execution and form and landings.
Now the big favorite here tonight.
Triple twist at the end. And when he's doing a little bit easier of a routine, he's more rested and he can really zone in on the floor a little bit better. That's a 3/10 hop right there, 3/10 off. Good start, but could be much better for Yule.
But again, early in the season, a lot of these athletes could also be trying out new skills, new routines that they want to perfect towards the end of the season, the World Championships, obviously national championships before then as well.
13.5 for Alex Diab a moment ago. Yule Moldauer, fourth at the World Championships last year, which, by the way, was the best U.S. men's finish in just over a decade.
We're watching some gymnastics today. Next time, you guys should come and watch in person, though.
There you go.
Well, we are here in person, Yule,
Absolutely.
so wouldn't miss it.
Yule plans on doing gymnastics for quite a while. I think he said 2 or 3 more Olympic Games after Tokyo, which...
Well, a lot are, of course, not only targeting Paris, which is the next Summer Games in 2024, but then you've got Los Angeles 4 years after that. So a lot of these gymnasts we'll be seeing tonight will obviously want to compete on home soil and Olympic Games, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Trust it, Rob. Let's go. One pass at a time.
All right, so the score coming in for Yule Moldauer, 13.4. So a solid start for the U.S. Olympian. First of 6 rotations tonight. Now on to Robert Neff. Silver medalist on 2 different events back at the Pan Am Games some 3 years ago.
So after every Olympic Games, I don't know why they do this, but the FIG, the governing body of sport for gymnastics worldwide, they get together and they make the rules harder and more challenging, more demanding. And they always do it, and this year is no exception. A little bit of a balance check in the middle of that press to handstand. Like I said, you have to do an element that's non-acrobatic in character. Those are 2 of them right there.
So often when a little balance check or something like that happens on the easier elements, it's really just a little bit of a lack of concentration and focus because it's an easier skill. Starting to think about the next tumbling pass, perhaps.
Very clean triple twist at the end. Not a lot of height on it, but very clean.
All right, so Robert Neff gets his evening underway. He graduated from Stanford 4 years ago. He was an NCAA champion on 2 occasions. As we've seen some of the big names already. But still a long way to go here. Early, rotation 1 at the Winter Cup. And now the standings after the first rotation. Asher Hong, one of the high-profile names on the night, leading the way. 14.566 in his first event. Yul Moldauer outside the top 10 right now in 13th, but again, still early. A long way to go here, but a good start for Asher Hong. Getting things going, rotation number 2 coming up as we continue from Frisco, Texas. Rotation 2 about to commence, and Asher Hong goes into this second rotation as the leader after the first. The 17-year-old who was born in nearby Plano, Texas. The family moved to Missouri. He eventually came back to the Dallas area before then relocating to Houston. Now resides permanently here in the Lone Star State. Set to graduate from high school this coming spring and then on to Stanford next fall.
And you know, if you were watching in Tokyo, I talked about this quite a bit. The USA men's team, although they could execute very well, their degree of difficulty was much less than the top 3 teams, Russia, China, and Japan. Actually 6 points less before the meet even began. And so the men's program for USAG has come up with a very new strategy, and we'll see that here. They are encouraging the athletes right at the beginning in the quest for the Olympics to do very difficult gymnastics, and they will get bonus points added on. The vault that he is planning on doing is so difficult, only a couple of people in the world do it, and he will get 1.78 added on to his score after they do the execution score and the difficulty score. Very complicated, I know, but the Japanese team started this 4 years before Tokyo. It worked out well for them.
The 17-year-old from right here in Texas, Asher Hong, the leader after the first rotation, now opening things up in rotation number 2 on the vault here at the Ford Center in Frisco.
Super difficult vault. Kasamatsu, oh baby, and that was good. Really, really hard. Double flip in a straight position with 3.5 twists. Wow. And done easily.
He's pumped.
Big power. And so much. Look at all the twisting. It is just so dynamic, so quick, aggressive, and all the way to the ground. Gets that around. I would say the heel never went down, didn't go past that white line. There are, you know, the top 5% in the world at the elite level can do that vault with 3 twists, but he does it with 3.5. Only, like I said, just a few people in the world competing that.
You know, it truly is something to be able to do it just in practice and training, not on the competition surface, but to come under the bright lights on a podium in a competition with pressure, nerves, and deliver like he just did.
Wow, 16.680.
8.9 in execution, but you take that 6.0 and the 8.9. Wow, this unbelievable.
At this point, his lead looks set to grow here. Just getting underway in the second rotation, but he may be on his way to an even bigger margin.
Oh, he will be, absolutely. Nobody can come close to that number. That's the highest score that I believe we'll see all day long on any event.
Let's go.
So 2 for 2 for Hong, the leader, and now Vitaly Gumaras, the 22-year-old from the University of Oklahoma. just outside the top 10 at the last Olympic trials, was in a top 10 spot, though, here at this Winter Cup last year. And for the Sooners of Oklahoma, on a team that was the NCAA runner-up just last year.
Vitaly, a beautiful gymnast, just gorgeous extended knees, toes, great rhythm with his gymnastics work. He's had a bit of a rough year, though. Had a situation where he lost consciousness in an airport after a competition, fell down, broke his nose, had to go into the hospital. His first event was parallel bars, had a nice start there.
Now born right here in Dallas, now living in Colorado.
Nice start. Release skill, just so light. And look at the great extension. Not just the knees, the toes, but the elbows totally locked. Now, he doesn't have the highest degree of difficulty, but he is sure gorgeous to watch do the sport.
That was a great example right there on that dismount.
I think that'll be the only tuck, double twisting, double somersault we'll see. He's been doing this for a long time. Really nice. Look at him spot planet Earth right there, and feet down, fly high, stick the landing. Gymnastics 101, baby.
Was waiting for that, Tim. And look at him truly just spot. If you had a tutorial on how to do a dismount like that, he would be the person to film it.
Well, he got the 101 part from his parents, who were both gymnasts themselves and also gymnastics coaches, so they knew of what they taught. And he picked up just what they wanted. That's a tremendous second event for him on the night. So much on the line for these gymnasts here, as U.S. national team spots are up for grabs, and the U.S. will name the top 5 in the all-around to the national team after this first day of competition at the end of these events. So even though it's early in the year, early in the Olympic cycle, there's plenty at stake here. Not just a season opener to stretch the legs and get the muscles loose. There are spots up for grabs on the U.S. national side.
Yeah, and what that means is if you make that national team, you can get an international assignment, which is what every single one of these guys is striving for.
So it's a 13.4.
And for high bar, that is a very big number, that 8.9 execution. I don't know if we'll see anybody come close to that.
Well, at the men's developmental national championships, first on this event a year ago, and Gamboa underway now.
And he can fly high. Also makes it look pretty. The tough stuff right here, so extended. Very clean. A little bit shy of finishing in a handstand on that one. Well, Vitaly was clean, and so was this young man. Excellent gymnastics from 2 Sooners in a row.
From Arizona, but competing down in Norman. And a 14.05 on the parallel bars in his first rotation. And now here's Yul Moldauer with some work to do in rotation number 2 on the pommel horse.
Has a very challenging routine. New element right here, done very well. Now he'll break into his flare work. Really well done, beautiful extension. Exhausting to do. Oh, wow, great fight. Oh boy. Oh, and I could see that coming. Just got a little bit off balance. Had just the dismount left to go.
But as you mentioned, Tim, you know, just like on high bar here, it's right when something is just a little bit off, it's really hard to kind of get back on track. Probably even more so on this event.
I think he's just tired here, and he's a little close to the pommel right there. Thought he got it back on track, but shoulders just not in the right spot, and
Felt like he was holding on as long as he could, right?
Yes, exactly.
Fighting through the fatigue, and then reset for just that dismount. So not exactly the kind of start that Yul Moldauer had hoped for. Not even in the top 10 after the first rotation, and then what we just saw there for his second event. Still early, but he's got a lot of people to climb over to get back in this all-around competition. Gamboa with a 13.450 on the high bar from earlier.
Floor time.
So whenever you see an athlete that comes off of the equipment, it's a 1-point deduction, a full point off.
And Tim, you had mentioned how they always change the rules and try to make it harder. Have they made it better, though?
Well, if you ask me, no. No.
There's Robert Neff. Saw him on the floor in the first rotation with a 12.95.
Nice work on one pommel there. That was an error, was not supposed to do that. Got to get his body back together and just...
Sounded and looked like he kind of hit his legs on the side of the pommel. So again, it's just so hard to rebound from even the slightest of mistakes.
He did a skill. He was supposed to stay on that one pommel and do one more skill, and because he did not do that, it's not an element, and so I'm sure he was flustered by that. As you can see, he can swing pommel horse, though. Dismount. Nicely done, but once again, full point off for the fall.
Saw Moldauer come off before. He only had the dismount left to go. Neff had still quite a chunk of his routine remaining when he got back up there. And speaking of Yul Moldauer, 13.789 for him on the pommel horse.
Come on, Neff. Let's go, Gary.
So these athletes completing their first 2 rotations. Robert Neff now waiting on his scores. Part of the Pan Am teams from the last few years. And Blake's son, the 3-time NCAA All-American, on parallel bars just a few moments ago. Check this out.
And he's an artist on this event. I mean, it's like fine music, poetry, just gorgeous, gorgeous work. Does the very difficult, so incredibly hard to do that peach basket right to a handstand on one rail. But then, wow, that is uncharacteristic for this young man. This did happen a few minutes ago, but I did not see that in real time.
An NCAA All-American on this event, 23 years of age, from Stanford.
Just way off on that. It's a similar skill to that one I was just singing his praises for. Yeah, it's too bad.
He did not vault in the first rotation, so this is his first event of the night.
Yeah, at this point, he doesn't do the all-around anymore, repeating that element, and you see it right there. Gorgeous. Oh boy, and another big mistake. Was not supposed to go down onto the bars. Nice release skill. That's such a shame because he is so spectacular on this event.
Well, we saw what happened to Blake's son over on the parallel bars just a few moments ago. 11.4. You see the red arrow along with Robert Neff on the pommel horse with a 12.150. That red arrow means it's a low score. Not what they were hoping for here this evening at the Winter Cup. Zach Nunez just outside the top dozen after the first rotation. From just outside of Houston, Texas, competing at the University of Oklahoma, where he was an NCAA team silver medalist last year.
And he is coming off of a fantastic collegiate competition. Got his personal best on 4 different events and went 6 for 6 in the all-around. One way that they modified the rules was they've made it harder for you to do the same type element, not the same exact element, but the same type of element a number of times in a routine. It's typically about 2 times you can do it now. Very nicely done right there. Nice dismount. And I'll tell you what, Oklahoma, if there's one thing that they are known for, it is their landings. Just incredible position and just sticks that cold. We saw Vitaly Ramirez do a great landing and dismount as well.
Let's get it, Jack.
It's interesting how at a particular institution like Oklahoma, they are known for something like that. They all seem to elevate one another and continue the tradition. And certainly they know what their lane is. Coy Young outside the top 20 after the first rotation, the 20-year-old. Maryland native.
But started on high bar, which is, like I said earlier, one of the more strictly evaluated events. It's a foreshadowing of what we'll see on his next event, pommel horse, which is his best event.
Lost a little focus right there.
And I think it showed up there, too.
And maybe even right there. Almost like the first half of the routine was under control and he was focused and got a little too excited to get through some of the harder parts.
What's that? What was that?
I'm not sure.
Well, he's been second on this event at the U.S. Gymnastics Championships in the past.
But he's just such a pleasure to watch because yep, you go to Stanford. 2.5 twist, very difficult. I would say that could have been a 1/10 slide backwards. If it's more than 1 foot of distance, it's 3/10.
So Zach Nunez had a score of 13.150 on the high bar. Coy Young, who we just saw on the floor, had a 13.1 on that apparatus back in the first rotation. Again, this is rotation number 2, 6 rotations altogether here this evening. How many of these athletes do you sense, even though there is a lot at stake in terms of qualification for future events, given that it's so early in the season and in the Olympic cycle, are just kind of using it as a measuring stick, trying to figure out where they stand in relation to everybody else?
Well, they are, but also it's a very early meet in the international calendar of gymnastics. But for the NCAA athletes, they have been competing, full board since the first of the year. So,
But for those who've already graduated from college, maybe, it's a great place, as I was saying earlier, to even test out new elements, new routines, because competing on a podium, the raised platform here, everything feels a little bit different. Add on some nerves to that. Good to get it. Some practice.
Oh. Fred Richard slipping.
One of the junior athletes that is trying to make that jump from junior to senior. Like Asher Hong, is able to do just a super high level of difficulty. Back on track. There's his dismount, double front. Little bit of a hop forward. That fall, though, where he makes contact with the parallel bars, it's a full point, and he also loses that element. So
this is where it happened.
very tricky element called a Makut's. Supposed to keep moving, and just that hand wasn't even close to grabbing. You need to reach behind your back on that. Double front, little bit of a hop. But that's disappointing for this young man for sure.
Had a 13-9 on vault to begin the evening, and then that mistake there on the parallel bars certainly will cost him here.
It's a big opportunity for him, though, to come out on the floor. And, you know, these are the very best guys in the U.S. The only one that's really not here that's at the very top of the game is Brody Malone, who, you know, has had a super successful career as of late. Won a medal on high bar at the 2021 World Championships. He's actually in Europe, Germany, competing at the Cottbus Invitational.
Now this will take us to Nicholas Kubler, who, as you saw, won at the Developmental National Championships. Had a 13.45 on vault that began his night from Seattle. And like so many we've already seen, competing at Stanford as well.
Saw him struggle on this element yesterday many, many times. Very finicky skill. Oh, and deals with that. Was a little bit off, but able to hang on. I think this young man has a very promising future. Didn't really know him well before this competition. Stanford was one of the only teams that was in early enough to see practice the other day. Double front, small hop. Has a calmness to him. That's what I like a lot about him. Certainly he needs to work on his difficulty scores, but
now Kubler said that he was doing push-ups as a baby, which inspired his parents to get him into the sport. I don't know about that. I mean, had he been doing Pilates, that would have really thrown us off the mark. But I guess if you're doing push-ups, there's only one track to go down, and he's doing what he's supposed to be. Nicholas Kubler here at the Winter Cup, finishing up the second rotation. Asher Hong leading after the first rotation and building on that lead at the end of rotation 2. The lead of Asher Hong ballooning after the second rotation. Look at that number. Yul Moldauer down in 4th. He's improved his position since that first rotation, but Hong, at this rate, if he continues, he could be running away with this thing. Tremendous start for Asher Hong here as we move on to rotation number 3 from here in Frisco, Texas. When we return to the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. Gorgeous 12,000 seat facility that also hosts a lot of the premier high school football games in this area. The world corporate headquarters of the Dallas Cowboys. And Vitaly Gumaras, who is third and after the second rotation, will next be up on the floor as this third rotation gets underway. And this is his event. This is what he likes the best, where he's the most comfortable. The son of 2 parents who are both gymnasts and still coach in the sport. Born right here in the Dallas area, now living in Colorado. And has been part of 2 NCAA runner-up teams at the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah, Stanford has kind of taken over the lead in men's collegiate gymnastics for so long. Oklahoma had really dominated, winning 3 NCAA titles in a row. Wow, great double twisting, double somersault. Remember when I said that he's had a rough start to his year? Well, I'm wrong, apparently. He looks phenomenal. And I'll tell you what, these landings have been just spot on. Triple twist, hop backwards, but we always say that Yule is probably the cleanest, but what do you think, Nastya?
I was just about to say, this is kind of like the Yule we are normally used to seeing, just so controlled. And nothing against Yule, obviously, he hasn't lost it or by any means, but just felt not as controlled and perfect on those landings as he normally was earlier today.
Look at this one, double, double, and bam! Just rocks the house on that landing. So many great ones in this routine.
And really, it was just this dismount triple twist. Great actual skill. Got all the way around, very clean, but just that hop back on the landing.
Just looked like somebody who was in total command.
Let's go, Ray. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm really happy for him.
My boys at OU.
14.250 for Guimarães, and his teammate Ray Del Gamboa will follow him out there onto the floor. He's in second after 2 rotations, a distant second, mind you, behind Asher Hong, but still trying to keep it rolling. He's off to a fine start.
Nice start, just maybe only a tenth on that little foot adjustment on the landing. Nicely done there. That gets bonus when you connect those double front somersaults from another flipping skill. Some of the gymnasts are actually trying to do 2 connections with double fronts in the tuck or pike leg straight position. That's not low enough though. And they are demanding it be so low, 1 thickness of a hand. So probably only get a tenth of a point off. They have clarified that. They've always wanted it to be very low, the head very low to the ground, but now they've given a little more direction on it. Two and a half at the end. Another clean routine. I'll tell you what, Oklahoma looks really good here at this competition. It's an Oklahoma type meet. Maybe not doing the absolute hardest gymnastics, but being clean and sticking a lot of landings.
They heard your comment about Stanford.
Yes.
Feeding off each other. Now Asher Hong with a huge lead after 2 rotations, and now moving over to parallel bars, trying to increase this massive advantage that he has already put together.
And he's capable. He doesn't just do the hard stuff, but he's pretty darn clean with all of his gymnastics. No doubt that he works incredibly hard, but Nastya, he actually was at your gym for a while. You saw him when he was just a little kid, and what did you think of him?
Oh gosh, I thought he was one of the most talented young athletes that I have ever seen. And the hardest worker, too. You know, sometimes athletes are blessed with the talent and don't quite have the work ethic, and he always had it all.
Good patience there. Little bit off on that, should have just flown up to the handstand. Big release from one end to the other. Has some really tricky stuff coming up. Right here, we've seen some athletes falter on that skill. That was excellent. Really, really good adjustment right there. Many would have fallen. Not Asher Hong. Double front, half out.
Yeah, baby.
Watch out, world.
Absolutely, watch out is right. A lot of people were wishing he was a little bit older going into Tokyo for the Olympic Games. He was not age eligible for that competition. He is now, and he can be a force.
He took a 10-week break from the gym going back during the lockdown at the start of the pandemic. He trained at home via Zoom workouts that he basically conducted between his coaches. He used a mini pommel horse and rings, and he said it actually helped him. He said it helped him focus in on his skills, and the layoff gave him some rest that he had needed. He just didn't want to rest. He was forced into the rest, and that made a huge difference for him. Says he came back stronger, faster, more agile, and just better all around.
So really the only problem in the exercise, he should just fly right up to that handstand, but you see a little bit of an angle in the shoulders, in the hips. Not a big deduction, but this was phenomenal. He does this so easily. Double front half, and just like butter.
But you know, you mentioned, Tim, a few of the tiny errors that he had, not really even errors, but you said a lot of athletes would probably fall off, but this is what comes with experience, and this isn't even something that he fully has as a senior athlete.
14.355, the green arrow means that's a good one.
Yeah, I caught under and I was like, ooh. He kind of gave up on this.
Yul Moldauer in fourth place after the second rotation. A big jump from where he was outside the top 10 following the first rotation. Someone who's been just off the podium in fourth at the World Championships, so looking to increase his standing here as well at this Winter Cup and move into a podium spot here as he begins on the rings.
Nice strength part. It's a very unusually constructed routine. Nicely done. Good position on that iron cross. Pretty good. You're supposed to land directly in the cross from that swing element. You're not allowed to be high at all on it. He was a little bit, but not bad. And big dismount also. Oh, double twisting, double somersault. Does it in the tucked position. He's capable of doing it with his body extended straight. Probably a good decision for him, though.
Well, he's come off of every event so far, just kind of business as usual. Nothing spectacular, not too disappointed, just kind of moving through his routine so far tonight, it seems like.
Not his first rodeo.
And Ian Gunther getting set for the pommel horse here. Again, we are in the third rotation of 6 at this Winter Cup. Asher Hong has been tremendous so far, has a big lead. And here is the 8-time NCAA All-American.
Capable of doing a really difficult routine. His first element when he's doing the circling swings is probably his most challenging. Long time on one pommel right here. Really well done. Do another full spin. That one's called a zone, a little bit off, but oh boy, little bit of a balance check and some knee bend. And it was good. It was very good. It's so hard of a routine, but he can do that better.
Shout out Stanford.
So Tim, I have a question for you. So when you were on the pommel horse, what was something that you were kind of telling yourself throughout your routine? Was it talking yourself through each element, or did everything happen a little too quickly to even think about one skill at a time?
Grab the pommels. Grab them. Don't just put your hands down. Grab them, squeeze, and hold on for dear life. This skill, very, very challenging all the way around. 360 degrees on one arm. Made the national team, and he said that, you know, I made the national team.
To stay on, that's what pommels is about, fighting for.
There you go, you're right.
Basically
you're right.
what you said.
Yeah, he said to me that, you know, I made the national team, but I've yet to compete for the U.S. in an international competition. I so badly want that. I want to wear that USA on my chest and represent.
14.116 for Yul Moldauer just a moment ago. And this was earlier. Alex Diab, the two-time Rings NCAA champion, just like his father.
He's very strong. I did not see him do this live as well, but beautiful position. That's called a Maltese. And really, all of these guys are just chasing super difficult gymnastics. Here's that inverted handstand. It was a little bit lower than Asher Hong's, but maybe not a full 2 seconds, but it was close. This is a big time routine. As I mentioned earlier, the U.S. men's program has a special bonus. They're trying to push the difficulty level to challenge the top 3 teams in the world. He'll get some of those bonus points. But he lost a lot on that dismount. 2 big steps, and his body was a little bit bent in the air.
Use it, man.
With the difficulty in the execution, it's a 14.445. Ian Gunther, not as good on the pommel horse, 13.200.
And like I was talking about, the bonus that Alex Diab just got was basically 9/10 of a point was added onto his score because he did such a difficult routine.
So that'll take us to Jack Freeman, a 21-year-old from the University of Oklahoma. It's been a lot of Sooners and Stanford here tonight. 2 of the best, 2 with the pedigree, and they've been showing it.
Good patience on that, once again, that combination tumbling run. Used to get bonus for that, no more with the new code. Oh, that was sweet though. Once again, you got to do that non-acrobatic element. That is his. A little bit off on that. And he took that hop because he wasn't in great position at the end of his 2.5. Good fight. Triple full at the end. Big hop forward, though.
How much are they calculating things in their head as they're out there. They know the rules, they know where the deductions are, where the points fall. Is that something that they're consciously aware of during the routine, or is it just about focusing on execution?
You know, I think it truly depends on the athlete. For me, I know I was constantly calculating, say, for instance, on the uneven bars. If I missed a connection or if I had to change up my routine, I knew exactly every single type of routine, and I had multiple, I guess I had multiple different routines, that a backup plan essentially if something went wrong. But I know a lot of athletes don't really even know their start values, kind of relying on their coaches.
Let's go, boys!
Another well-executed routine from an Oklahoma Sooner gymnast. Triple full at the end. That hop is a 3/10 hop, but where his chest was at the end of that landing, bent over, that's another 3/10 off as well.
And now sits, and it's in the hands of the judges here. Just the weight for Freeman, as it's a 13.250.
Get it, boys!
Top 10 after the second rotation for Fuzzy Bennis. Our first look at him here this evening at the Winter Cup. So far he's been on the parallel bars, the high bar.
Come on, boys! Come on, boys!
Parallel has been his best of the evening.
Really nice double twisting double, perfect landing. This guy can really sneak up on you. Very successful junior gymnast. His dad, Adam, was a very good gymnast as well. I haven't seen him in a while. He really got to ask him. So what's with the Fuzzy name? Where did you get that, Adam? It's cool, but has a little bit of an Achilles issue. His coach, Mark Williams, told me. Oh boy, and
Managed to stay in bounds there, but good recovery. Oh, an even better recovery right there.
and that's the kind of stuff he does all the time. He looks a little unassuming, and you know, you don't really expect him to be able to do all of the things that he does. I remember from when he was a little kid, I saw him and I was like, I didn't think he would be able to do all of the gymnastics that he does, but he's typically very consistent as well.
He's been top 3 on the floor exercise at several major competitions.
Not really his only major error. That was a 3/10 step. That looked close, right?
Looked pretty close, but I guess I was looking at the line judge here, and the flag did not go up.
Well, comes from a small town just southwest of Houston, so a Texas native competing here in his home state tonight. As we come to the end of rotation number 3, halfway through the 2022 Winter Cup, and more to come from the Ford Center just outside of Dallas. The 17-year-old Texas native Asher Hong with a big lead after the second rotation, still a sizable margin at the halfway point as well. 3 rotations down, 3 still to go. He'll be on the high bar next as we roll on from the Ford Center in Frisco. Asher Hong, the leader, heading into rotation number 4 in this first significant elite competition of the gymnastics season. And plenty on the line for these men. U.S. national team spots up for grabs, and they'll be named at the conclusion of competition. The top 5 all around will be named to the team. Also part of the selection process for some other major international competitions to come, as well as a qualifier for the U.S. Gymnastics Championships later on this summer. So while some are still working the kinks out and figuring out their routines here early in the season in this final weekend of February, you got to bring your A game to an extent, because these count, these are for real, and these matter down the line. And for Asher Hong, boy, he's brought his A game and then some to the first 3 rotations, a big lead, and now looking to add more. Ray Del Gamboa will get things going. Top 5 after 3 rotations. He's on the pommel horse to begin rotation at number 4.
You want to have your body as straight, just like a plank when you're doing the circle type elements. You also want to have a lot of distance between your body and the pommels. Right here, when you go behind your back like that. Very nice so far. Oh my gosh. And that was very interesting. That was a little questionable as to whether or not that was even a dismount, but I would have called it one.
I'll take a second look and see if you're still going to call it one.
Yeah. So you have to finish in a handstand, and if you're not anywhere near a handstand, and I don't know about that. This will be very interesting.
So typically if it doesn't go up to a handstand and it's not a dismount, that loses a lot in the requirements. So he really should have tried to do that one more time in order to fulfill his requirements of doing a complete dismount.
And I can see that some of the judges, I'm looking kind of
They're trying to
over
figure
the
out.
table, and
They're discussing.
yes, some of
Under
them.
their masks.
Yeah, exactly. Some of them are, you know, they are very strict judges, and so we'll see here.
Alex Diab now on vault.
Double front, and that's a newish vault for him, I believe. Just didn't really have any zip at all on that.
And Nastia, you've mentioned some of the new routines that are being tried out here and displayed as you take another look here, but how long will they typically work on routines before they make their debut in a competition like this?
Well, you know, you want to get them confident and consistent enough to perform once again on the big stage, but more so when you have the nerves and the pressure, because again, it's one thing to be able to complete this vault in training when there are no nerves, no audience, not on a podium. But again, it really depends on the event. It depends on the athlete. There are certain skills that took me over a year, for instance, on the uneven bars, to ever put in my routines.
Here is Asher Hong, the leader after the 3rd rotation, and now next up on the high bar.
Everything on high bar is a challenge, but for Asher, it's one of his release moves right near the top. He is a very frequent poster on social media, and he's had some pretty good wipeout shots on this one skill. It's called a Coleman, double back over the bar with a full twist. Comes right here. Missed this in warm-ups. Brought it nice and close to the bar, made sure that wasn't gonna happen again. And that one, sometimes, you know, when you're too close on the first release, you just say, I can't be that close again. I gotta take it a little bit away from the bar. So he gets no credit for that element. And he was planning on getting basically a half of a point in difficulty score. I don't know if he will repeat that. So he loses that half a point basically, and then he also has the full point off deduction. He's not going to repeat it. And that one was just, didn't look like it was going to get back to the bar ever to me.
Is this a case of one mistake compounding another, or just a series of separate mistakes, just not his particular event tonight?
No, definitely I would say it's one mistake, because he caught the really difficult one, but he was super close to the bar, had some form deductions, bent his elbows. He knows he lost a ton on that alone, and then having 2 more falls. And this is new-ish for him also. He's got that big cushion, and he's going to need it. Double-double laid out, like a walk in the park for him.
Well, the first real setback for Asher Hong tonight.
So just a little bit too far from the bar.
Yeah. And I was scared and I got.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Tim, you know, sometimes when you're that close to the bar, in training this would have been the perfect way to kind of get back on track, but in competition, with that skill coming up right after the time he was close, just couldn't quite hang on to it.
Alex Diab, meanwhile, with a 13 even, with that red triangle, meaning below what he had hoped for with his score. And now it's back over to the pommel horse. Zach Nunez outside the top 15 into the second half of this meet and this 4th rotation.
Nice body line. Good extension. Look at how high his hips are above the pommels right there. Very well done. That skill is called a spindle, where you're circling in one direction and you turn your body in the opposite direction. Very tricky. Another hit set for the University of Oklahoma. This young man has a very bright future as well, I'll tell you.
Now comes from Houston and making the trip north for his collegiate gymnastics, but back in the home state here tonight. Yul Moldauer. I don't know if that's a punishment or a preparation.
Yeah, no. A lot of gymnastics can look a little like punishment, but this won't, that's for sure. Oh no, actually that is shocking. That is not what he was planning on doing. He was supposed to do another extra half turn at the end of that. Very surprising. It's usually money in the bank when Yul is going to vault. He's capable of sticking a more difficult and higher valued vault than that. So very surprising.
Well, Moldauer, it seems like just slightly off his best here this evening.
Yeah, I don't know if we've mentioned it, but he had a heck of a time getting to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Finally ended up flying into, I think it was Austin or San Antonio, I don't even know, but no rental cars, had to take an Uber, a $400 Uber to get here.
Yeah, it's been a sequence of all kinds of frustration for a lot of these athletes because of the ice storm over the last few days. It canceled a lot of flights, and some didn't make it in at all. Others, as you mentioned, flew to Austin and then drove, got in late night, and affecting the rest as well as the training time.
Jack just really wants to survive this event. Oh boy. And he certainly had up until the dismount. He'll lose a little bit for that, but that's a hit for Jack Freeman on pommel horse.
Seems like the dismounts are just giving lots of them trouble.
Why do you think that is?
Well, being early on in the season sometimes as well, it's about endurance, you know, and doing such a long, difficult routine towards the end. Sometimes it's strength and endurance. Sometimes it's the mentality of relaxing a little bit too soon.
Without question, exactly, Nastia. He's just a little tired. This isn't an event that he is as natural on. But a dismount should fly right up to the handstand, and you see a little struggle right there. And as we said earlier, that questionable. I think he'll survive that one, but he certainly will rack up some deductions.
Just put the faith in the judges.
Come on, kid.
Jack is a very animated young man. Has a lot of fun with his gymnastics and very up individual. Helps his teammates as well.
We talked about it before, that just the team composition and the structure in NCAA gymnastics, especially at a prestigious program like Oklahoma, it elevates everybody. Family atmosphere. 11.2 for him on the pommel horse is Fuzzy Bennis, who's just inside the top 10 after the third rotation, is next up on the pommel horse. Where we've seen a few struggle here, especially with the dismounts and that fatigue that seems to have built up later in their routines.
Very good start. We'll do a extra turn on the pommel. A little bit off, but you would never know it. He hides it extremely well when there is an issue. And an uncanny ability ever since he was a little kid to hit routines, but that right there, that's not a dismount. And I don't really know what they're gonna do. That's a very, very, very big deduction.
So as he walked off, he kind of took a look at the judges almost to ask if that would count.
That was a great routine for Fuzzy, for sure. But then I would say that could have been a little bit of fatigue, but also his shoulders, as he was coming around to start going up to the handstand, they were not forward enough. Should have been completely in front of the horse, and he wasn't at all. Right here, he's way back. And you're not allowed to use strength to get up to that handstand, and that was all strength.
So Fuzzy, not exactly the finish that he wanted.
Yeah, baby, let's go. Let's get a bit.
Fuzzy Bennis coming from about 4 hours south of here. He's been top 5 at the Winter Cup Challenge before. And here, an 11.8. South of 12 on the pommel horse at the Winter Cup. Now Vitaly Gumaras, top 3 after 3 rotations. He's looked good on everything so far. He's looked confident, in command, and trying to extend that to the pommel horse here in rotation number 4.
Has a nice long body, looks great when he is on pommel horse. Good fight there. His dismount, very well done. Another super clean for Vitaly. Another super clean routine for him, I should say.
And just south of 14 to open up the night on the parallel bars. 13.5 on the high bar. And then north of 14 on the floor in his last routine.
So we've seen some struggles, but not this one right here. Right up to that handstand, does an extra pirouette, gives him another 10th in bonus. Not going to be a gigantic score, though, because his maximum potential score is not that high. And pommel horse is another event like high bar that is just evaluated so strictly. On every element, there are a myriad of different deductions that are capable.
Now, this was just a moment ago. Riley Luce, 4th in the all-around at the Senior Pan Ams last year. 2nd in the all-around at this event a year ago. And this was his routine on the rings.
Riley is a beast on this event. So physically strong in what's called a planche or Maltese right here. Very nicely done. Goes from that planche and pushes, or Maltese, and pushes up to a planche. Beautiful position right there. So hard to do that. Love seeing it. We used to call that a straight. Straight body, straight arms to a handstand. His dismount right here. Double, small hop, very nice routine.
Now, last year here, he won both the floor and the vault, but was top 8 on all 6 events. Very consistent in last year's Winter Cup, and the similar trajectory unfolding here tonight as well. Riley Luce, 13.6 on the rings. Vitaly Gumaras, meantime, that's a good score, 14.350 on the pommel horse. He continues his excellent run of form here tonight in Frisco.
And look at that, a 9.15 execution score on pommel horse. That's like an extinct animal. That just never happens.
Cole Partridge won the floor exercise at the U.S. Gymnastics Championships last year. And now here he is at the Winter Cup. Can he match it?
Nice combination tumbling run to start. Oh boy. Really going for that landing and just a little bit under rotated. Press to a handstand, need to hold that handstand position for 2 seconds. Dismount triple full, a little bit under rotated.
Yeah, you know, like we talked about on the other events, it's just seems like a lot of these athletes are running out of steam a little bit. They don't have the endurance quite yet. But also, Tim, as you mentioned, a lot of them had trouble getting here. Some driving, some taking very late night flights, a lot of canceled, delayed flights. Thanks to the snow and ice here in Texas.
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
Now Asher Hogg, with the exception of the high bar, has had no difficulty. He won't need an Uber to find the top of the standings. A comfortable lead here in Frisco, Texas. Asher Hong had a lead of over 3.5 at the end of the previous rotation. Now, after his struggles on the high bar, the advantage down to 0.15 over Vitaly Gumerez, who has been very consistent all night long. Yul Moldauer, top 3, still over a point behind. And Coy Young, Ian Lasik Ellis rounding out the top 5 with 2 rotations still left to go. Where else but Texas on this final Friday in the month of February. A frigid last few days, though, in the Lone Star State. And we are just outside of Dallas in the suburb of Frisco at the beautiful Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, world corporate headquarters of the Dallas Cowboys. But this weekend, the site of the 2022 Winter Cup, the first big, significant gymnastics competition on the domestic calendar, all leading up towards the U.S. Gymnastics Championships later on this summer. We've got 4 rotations down, 2 still left to go. And they are warming up for rotation number 5. Asher Hong, the Texas native himself, the 17-year-old, leading the way through the last several rotations. But after building up a significant lead of well over 3 points, that's been trimmed down substantially after struggling on the high bar in the previous rotation.
Yeah, he had 2 complete falls off the bar, and he also was super close on one element that the deductions probably came close to a full point off as well. So there goes those 3 points.
There is Asher Hong, who has to recalibrate now. His lead down to just 0.15. Asher Hong, a 17-year-old from right here in Texas, in front of these home fans. The leader from the jump. The lead, though, dwindling as he begins his floor routine.
Oh, that was great. Very difficult. So easy, right, Nasia?
Yeah, it's really unbelievable watching this.
And this is another one of those routines that can get the added bonus that Team USA has decided to encourage the athletes to do the super, super difficult gymnastics routines like the Russians, the Chinese, and the Japanese. Great landings. Triple twist, big step on the landing, but another excellent routine. And back on track for Asher.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you know, sometimes for especially younger athletes, it's tough to turn the page after having a mistake previously, and he literally did exactly what a coach tells you. Forget about it and move on.
Beautiful combination pass, laid out front full to a double pike, and just perfect landing. So difficult to do that on a front forward flipping element.
Here's that dismount, so triple twist, just if we're being super nitpicky, just the tiniest bit under rotated, and of course that big step. But wow, what an incredible routine.
Could have gotten away from him after having such a significant lead through these last few rotations and then coming off the high bar on multiple occasions. But gathering himself here and righting the ship in his very next event. Certain maturity and fluidity to his performance. And just over 14 on the floor for Asher Hong.
Come on, Caleb.
2 points off, but it doesn't matter right now. It's not hitting. Good water, good food.
So that's why you build up a big lead like that, in case things do goes sideways on you. It doesn't totally destroy your evening or your chances of getting the victory. And for Hong, still in position to get the victory. And Yul Moldauer here. This was just a short time ago over on the parallel bars.
It was a very difficult routine. Has really been challenging himself to do harder and harder gymnastics. He's always been known for the super clean look. Really nicely done right there. New element for Yul. Oh boy. Little bit of a struggle on that. And that's amazing that he did not come off the bars, because he was just about as far off as you can be. Don't tell that to him, though. Big dismount, double front, half out. Little bit of a hop on the landing. It's a very ambitious routine.
Been a challenging night for Yul Moldauer, but 15.543 for him here in his penultimate event of the evening. Yul Moldauer with some uncharacteristic mistakes on the floor, also came off the pommel horse. And now here's Colt Walker, just inside the top 20 after the fourth rotation.
And he's going to do a super difficult vault. Handspring front layout, so 2 flips in a laid out position, and he'll do 2.5 twists. Very few athletes in the world capable of doing this, and I told him yesterday, I saw him do this vault a couple of times, and I said, I don't think I've ever seen anybody do it that well in training. And that was good, very, very good, but he actually did it a little bit better yesterday. Had to bend his body a little bit, reaching for the ground. Still should be a very good score, and will get a lot of those extra bonus points that the men are using this year. So his body should be completely straight. It's pretty good there, but then look at where his chest is as he's reaching for the ground.
But you know, as you mentioned, Tim, these extra bonus points. So previously, before these existed, it was always about not just performing the difficult skills, but making sure that you perform them well, the execution. But now it might not matter as much as it has.
And if you look at those numbers right there, that doesn't add up, right? Because he's getting .597 added onto his score. The difficulty, the execution.
This is Ian Lassick-Ellis, our first look at the Massachusetts native tonight.
Doing a really nice job so far. Has been so calm everywhere today. I had the privilege to watch this young man grow up in the sport of gymnastics. Saw him countless times. Trained with a good friend of mine, Levon. And if you had told me 5 years ago that Ian would ever do that vault, I would have said, I don't think it's possible. And I think his coach, Levon, would have agreed with me. He just, you know, he used to be the smallest guy and so kind of almost frail, but he has filled out.
13.550 for Ian, who competes at Stanford. And Curran Phillips, his teammate, the 22-year-old, coming up next here on the vault.
Yurchenko style vault. Very nicely done.
He's the vault bronze medalist for Stanford from the last NCAA championships a year ago.
This vault.
Very popular on the women's side.
Yes. And that you brought that up, Nastia. This is the vault where Simone Biles got lost in the air in Tokyo at the Olympic Games and kind of popped out and did one full twist less than she was supposed to. And that led to her withdrawing from the team competition.
Just south of 15 for Curran Phillips. Good score at 14.7. And Coy Young just outside of a podium place here after 4 rotations, sitting in 4th. 2 more events to go, beginning with the vault.
A lot going on here. Half turn onto the board, half turn onto the table.
Wow.
Wow. That is very hard to do. That takes a lot of guts too to go for that landing like that.
He's just so quick at everything.
Half turn, laid out front somersault, 2 complete twists. Can't stop talking about Simone Biles. On the women's side, that is a Biles. She really only competed it for a very short time.
And you see him kind of look over his shoulder, just a little bit over his right shoulder, to try to spot the ground, spot the landing.
15.244 for Young here.
This is one of the silliest things ever. You have to flash the number of the vault you're planning to do. If you flash the wrong number, nothing happens. It's supposed to tell the judge what vault they're doing. The judges have to judge 10 elements in a row on the equipment, but they can't tell what a single vault is. Of course they can. I don't know. It's an arcane rule.
So you're saying that's one that they could just do away with and you would not be displeased?
Absolutely, yes. Well,
the amount of other rules that they have added.
Yes, right.
Just doesn't quite make much sense.
Maybe addition by subtraction would be nice.
Yeah. A little bit over that line, which incurs the deduction. It's just a little bit too low onto the vaulting table. He's a little scrunched up with his arms. Can't really get a great rebound off the table when you do it that way.
Let's go, right!
Well, he had a top 10 at last year's U.S. Gymnastics Championships.
Let's go, Riley.
And Gunther,
Come on, power.
when it's all added up, 13.450 here on the vault. And staying with the vault, Riley Luce, just barely inside the top 15 as he comes into the 5th rotation here. Again, this was the athlete who was 2nd here in the all-around last year.
And he's probably the gymnast that has surprised me the most. I really thought that he would be much better here. Has a big vault, the same one that we saw from Colt Walker. And he puts it to his feet, but a bunch of steps on the landing, just not what we're accustomed seeing from Riley.
Here's Vitaly Guimara's 2nd place after the 4th rotation. And again, he had closed to within just a little over 0.15 behind Asher Hong after the end of the last rotation. Hong getting back on track here in rotation 5, and now Guimara's with his penultimate routine of the evening as well.
Once again, has those beautiful lines, perfectly locked elbows, not touching the straps at all, and very good swing. But what Vitaly doesn't have is those static strength parts. His limbs are a little bit longer, makes it much harder to hold those skills, and those are the skills that give you the biggest difficulty level. Wow, he has been a sticking machine tonight. So glad to see that for Vitaly.
He's landed everything. .747 meanwhile for Riley Luce over on the vault.
And once again, those two numbers don't add up. And that's because he gets those 0.6 of bonus that the men's program has added to encourage really difficult stuff. Same vault we saw from Cole Walker, laid out double front somersault, a whole bunch of steps right there. But that extra 6 points erased 2 of those steps.
The optics make it look unusual.
Yes.
And if you're watching, it's very confusing because you think when you see a landing that has a lot of steps, or even if you sit the landing, it should be deducted, it shouldn't be a high score, and then all of a sudden you see the score, it can be disorienting, right?
Yes, absolutely. But, you know, like I said, Team USA went into Tokyo Olympic Games 6 points behind Russia, China, in Japan before they even started the competition. That's how much of a buffer those teams had on Team USA. Even if they had had a perfect competition, they couldn't have gotten on the podium.
Just makes it somewhat challenging for folks watching at home that are just taking it all in, because things just don't look and add up the way they might expect.
Just when you think they couldn't make it more confusing. But it's not a crazy strategy for Team USA. The Japanese did a very similar thing early on in the quad before the Tokyo Olympic Games. They fell just a little shy of Team the Russian Olympic Committee.
2 more, man. Let's go.
Now Vitaly Gomara's here waiting on his score.
Let's go, Ray. Let's get Ray.
Coming off the rings, which are not his best event, but another very sound landing to finish off the rings routine a moment ago. And his score, 13.6.
Let's go, Ray. Ray. Let's go, Ray.
And that's who they're talking about, Ray Del Gamboa. Just inside the top 10 as he climbs up onto the rings here.
Little bit of a hip angle. Should be completely board straight, his entire body on that skill. It's called a plange. Oh, and he's going to get a very big deduction on that. Second flipping, swinging element. Showed much too much support on the rings. Dismount. Double-double, really nice in the air, just a small little slide backwards. So you got to hold them for 2 seconds, but you also have to be, on this skill, a planche, completely flat. No angle in your hips at all. Look at from his hips to his toes. Hips far higher than his toes. And believe me, the judges are looking at exactly that.
So we'll have his score coming up shortly. But while we wait, let's take you over to the pommel horse, Toby Lang. Second in the all-around at last year's U.S. Gymnastics Championships from Roswell, Georgia. Also, first on the floor and in the team competition at the Junior Pan Am Games as well.
Try to show a good rhythm on all the circle work. A lot of what we call in gymnastics, this is a Russian dismount, and basically his entire routine kind of capitalizes on that type of element. It was a nice job. If I'm his coach, though, I'm telling him, hey, don't even look, because I know this panel on pommel horse, and you know, it's like he's a very good up-and-coming gymnast, but this will be brutal here, and the execution score on it won't be so great, and he doesn't have a very high starting score either.
Poised to graduate high school in just a couple of months. Coach might tell him not to look, but you know he will.
Yes,
You're always going to sneak a peek. Raydel Gamboa just inside of a 12 here over on rings. And we've got a new leader with one rotation left to go. Things changing here at the Winter Cup in Frisco, Texas. For the first time tonight, Asher Hong does not have the lead, and we are now headed towards the final rotation of the night. He has slipped into second as Yul Moldauer has moved to the top of the standings here at the Winter Cup. Once again, Steve, Nastia, and Tim, and quite a surprise given the fact that Asher Hong looked almost unbeatable early. He had a lead of over 3 points, and Yul Moldauer with some uncharacteristic mistakes as well has kind of had an off night, but here he is, one rotation to go, and he's back in first.
Absolutely, but you know, Yul is going to high bar. Historically, by far, his weakest event. He's really tried to upgrade the difficulty, so there's a lot of risk in that. Asher going to pommel horse, I think it's a little bit more stable of an event. He does a very hard routine there as well. If I were a betting man, and I kind of am, I think I go with Asher on this one.
You know, I'd like to go with him as well, but I think also sometimes experience can help a little bit, and when you do find yourself in a position where you could take your first major big senior title, you never know.
Hey, it makes it fun though. Could have been a runaway, but instead it's going to go right down to the wire. Final rotation coming up from here on this Friday night in Frisco, Texas. Colin Van Wickelen will get things going in the sixth and final rotation. He is just inside the top 15, and with this meet having a decidedly Texas flavor here tonight in the suburbs of Dallas. Van Wickelen from Spring, Texas, a Winter Cup high bar champion some 2 years ago, and also a vault champion the year before that. So he's done very well here in multiple appearances at this Winter Cup event.
This is his best event by far, vaulting. Does a super difficult skill. It's called a Dragolescu. 3 flips around with a half turn at the end. Oh, and he puts that to his feet. Very nicely done. Woo. Named after the great Romanian gymnast Marian Dragolescu right here. 3 times around in the air. Good rebound off the table, and boy, he is pulling as hard as he can. Does that half turn at the end, and I don't want to be his knees or ankles.
Taking a beating.
Head coach Mark Williams, longtime coach, University of Oklahoma. Colin is back in school at Oklahoma. He had gone back home to his high school gym of Cypress Gymnastics in Houston. Big number there, and once again, so 5.6, and because he's doing that level of difficulty, he gets an added 0.597. Now, how they came up with 0.597, I don't know, but that's what gets added on to his score.
Big opportunity for Ian Lysak-Ellis here. 5th place after the 5th rotation, final event of the night, as he tries to perhaps launch himself up onto a podium position.
What an unbelievable event this young man has had. Very nicely done. Tricky element right there. A little bit off on, and once again,
to get back on track right here.
yeah,
Press the reset button.
something wrong with his grip on those under bar skills.
And that was a good fight right in the middle of that routine.
Well, that's
Could have
exactly.
gone the other way, but
Yep.
he was able to reset there.
Absolutely. It's what you want to see from your athlete, without question. You got to fight till the end.
And the ability to push through and sort of reset your course in the middle is quite the skill.
When he was a little kid, just such a superstar in the state of Massachusetts and the region. This was very nice though, double front. Just a small little hop on that landing, but 2 elements in the middle of the routine. Just didn't have a good grip and really cost him.
So waiting for his final scores of the night.
Nice full spin or a Healy turn on one arm. And this is where his grip wasn't so good. Was supposed to fly right up to a handstand, and then he comes off of the bars so early on that. And when you hear my voice do that, the judges, they're just, you know, they like it's not just one place they're taking a deduction. There are several deductions for each of those skills.
So it's a 13.3, not the score he had hoped for on the parallel bars.
It's actually better than I thought it was going to be, that score right there.
Here's Vitaly Gumaras in 4th after 5 rotations. He's been as high as 2nd place here tonight. And now his final go round. Last of 6 rotations, he finishes up on the vault.
And this is a beautiful event for him. Not the highest level of difficulty, but it is picture perfect. A Yurchenko style vault, so he'll do that round off or half turn onto the board. And he has been a sticking machine today.
Wow. Tim, come
Man, unbelievable. And that was a great landing. That was not a perfect landing, but by my standards, no deductions at all. Look at how clean he is here. Great bounce off the table. Spots that ground in, he just holds on. He's the man today, I gotta tell you.
I was waiting for your line.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we've seen anybody hit the landings like he has. He was 4th at the Olympic trials in this event last year in St. Louis. And he has been buttoning everything up at the end of his routines here tonight.
Yeah, great competition for him. Look at that execution score, 9.650. And we're talking about that extra bonus added on because he does a 14.8 vault, no extra bonus.
And now Asher Hogg, final event of the night, now second place for the first time. He's been leading all the way throughout this meet, had a lead of 3.5 points at one stage, and now a final opportunity to get back to the top of the standings.
Has a very challenging routine. Lot of difficulty, exactly what not just the judges, but the program of men's gymnastics in the US is encouraging. Nice one pommel work there. So far this has been great, but this is a very long and fatiguing routine. Gotta hang on. This is where Yule came off. Not this young man. Wow.
That's a closing statement.
That was money, baby. Igor Verny, Tom Meadows. These guys were celebrating it up. Tremendous job. Really looked like he almost threw the meet away when he went to high bar. As you were saying, Stevie had 3.5 point lead going into that event and just kind of gave it all away, but he really gave nothing away on that routine.
Had 2 falls on the high bar. It was just disastrous, but this was the opposite.
Nice one pommel work. When you stay on that single pommel for a long time like that one and this one, very, very challenging. And just an exhausting routine, so long, so many elements. Dismount, the most important thing. He's exhausted here, but he is very well trained, very conditioned, and flies up to that handstand. You see his coach in the back, Tom Meadows.
Well, he had the strength and the endurance that others have not had here this evening. What a way to finish. So now the pressure on Yul Moldauer to deliver after taking the lead for the first time following the 5th rotation. Knowing what Asher Hogg just completed, the 17-year-old from here in Texas, Moldauer, who has a lot more experience. He's been on big stages in many different circumstances.
Nick, let's go.
And needs another sizable effort here in his final event of the night to hang on to this lead.
So I have to tell you, the highest score today on high bar is a 13.75, which isn't all that high. I don't know exactly what they're going to do with Asher. I see the judges, they're actually conferring right now, so that means either they have a different maximum starting score or their execution score, the deductions, is too far apart. Like one judge has an 8.1 and another's got an 8.8. That's too far apart.
It's never good.
Yeah.
And you got 4 different individuals there trying to come up with the equation that's going to deliver Asher Hogg a score he's been waiting for. And we'll just put it in the computer.
Yeah.
Let that spit it out. Long wait, tense moments. Moldauer on the left, Hogg on the right.
Oh, Curran? Yeah, dude.
And a score of 12.949, Tim.
And look at the execution score. You see that 6.6. I don't get that. Personally, that is brutal. Absolutely brutal.
I'm with you. I did not see that much deduction at all. Even if we were being extremely nitpicky.
It's just a fake.
Where would it have come?
Yeah, you know, like I said, that certainly there are places where you can take deductions, but they did not take a break at all in the deduction count.
What's your number, 48? I don't know. Is it 48?
That is a
So,
tough score to end on.
And I think what's happening there is Tom Meadows is going to put in a petition for that.
Boy, adding to the drama here at the end. About an hour ago, Asher Hong probably didn't even think it would come down to this. A lead of 3.5 points. He was kind of running away with it through the first few rotations, leading at the end of every event. But then 2 falls on the high bar made it much closer. And as a result, it's come down to this situation. All right, so while they figure that out, Ko Young on parallel bars. Third, coming into the final rotation of the night.
Has had just a beautiful competition. Very difficult. Nice giant swing. Oh boy, little bit of a struggle right there. Dismount double pike. It was a good routine, solid routine, but not going to get a really giant number.
All right, so for Young, it was a 13.750 on the parallel bars.
I just can't get over the score for Asher Hong, though.
Well, they're filling out the inquiry form here. Explain this, Tim.
So what they're doing, the only thing that you can make an inquiry on is the start value or the maximum starting score. So you have to write it all out for the judges, and then you need to submit it. Typically, the gymnasts have these all prepared, or the coaches have them completely prepared to just hand in. But the problem is sometimes the gymnast does the routine and maybe does it in a different order, takes something out, adds something. But what they are talking about is his D score, which the judges had it at a 6.0. And I think it could very well have been a little higher than that.
Well, as it stands now, Moldauer, as you see, needs better than 13.7 to maintain the lead here that he came into this final rotation with as he proceeds to his final event, the high bar.
Best score today on high bar or the pipe, 13.757. Needs to go right to a handstand, and that right there, that is going to make this very, very difficult. He's not battling Asher Hong. Here comes his release.
Really far from the bar on that release.
Yeah, I would not. Whew, that was far too.
Just seems a little bit off throughout this entire routine so far. And right there, hit his heels on the bar. First of all, that hurts. Second of all, big deduction. Double
layout, full out, and really, if they judge the way they have been judging tonight, absolutely no way that he can finish at the top of the podium with that routine.
Boy, what a crazy final 2 rotations here, considering things that have happened between Asher Hong and now Yul Moldauer. Swapping positions at the top of the standings, and now Hong filling out the inquiry following his last routine on the pommel horse. Yul Moldauer leading going into the final rotation, and now having some trouble on the high bar.
And that is not what he was supposed to do at all. And it's at least 5/10 off. I wouldn't organize the routine this way if I were coaching him. You know, I don't every day, but to do it in this order, I don't know, but it was good. He caught all of those releases, and that is a big new release for Yul.
And this is where he clipped his heels on the bar. Like I said, the bar is metal, so that really hurts, but then it's also a deduction. And going into that next skill, it just really makes the rest of the routine a lot more difficult. And right there, very low on that handstand.
And his dismount, full twisting double layout. I admire him. He has, you know, historically throughout his career hasn't had the highest level of difficulty on high bar, and he's really trying to up that. But sometimes when you do a lot more stuff like he did on floor exercise as well, he's usually got a much higher score than what he was capable of pulling off today. He needs to do that, though. He needs to add difficulty to his routines to be competitive in the all-around on the world stage.
Well, remember, Moldauer needed 13.702 if things stay the way they are with Asher Hong to maintain the lead here.
Really shouldn't be possible, though, not even.
Meanwhile, Vitaly Guimarães has moved to the top of the standings, but still some things and scores to be sorted here, as Hong is still waiting for the result of his inquiry, waiting for the score from Yul Moldauer on the high bar, which has proved to be a pretty pivotal event here tonight. Hong fell twice on the high bar, that reduced his huge lead he had early. Moldauer having his problems as well just a moment ago on the high bar. And so things taking a turn here late. There's Vitaly Guimarães, who's been kind of lurking in the shadows between Moldauer and Hong all night long. He's been very solid, consistent, sticking all of his landings. So much of the narrative has been built around Hong, who was sensational early, and Moldauer, who's not been at his best tonight, but still near the top of the standings and taking the lead coming into this final rotation. But on the high bar, nowhere close to what he needed, 11.4.
I thought my D score was fine.
And I'm looking over at the judges right now, and I have not seen a change to Asher Hong's score at all. And I'm looking also at the feed for scores, and it has not changed. That 6-0 difficulty, or excuse me, 6-0 difficulty hasn't changed. What a meet for this young man, though, Vitaly Guimarães.
So if things don't change, Vitaly Guimarães here is going to be the winner. Coy Young will finish in second, and Asher Hong will drop to third. But no official word as of yet. Still waiting on the final numbers here to see if the 22-year-old from the University of Oklahoma, Vitaly Guimarães, gets the victory.
But, you know, I think despite the final standings for him, Tim, as you said, it was just an incredible day for him to come out here and perform the routines like he did. That was a little bit of an, you know, here I am moment for him.
So actually the judges are convening again, but you know, if there's a change in the start value, I mean, Asher is about 0.5 of a point behind second and almost 0.9 of a point behind Vitaly. They're not going to have that kind of a change with this routine.
And Vitaly Gumaras has already started celebrating.
I would say that's the biggest meet of Vitaly's career.
A silver medalist in the team competition on 2 occasions at the NCAA championships for Oklahoma. But as an individual, this will be the biggest win of his career. And for Asher Hong, it was all rolling early on, leading by substantial margins through the first few rotations. At one point, and over a 3.5-point lead. But then it was that high bar routine where things really got away from him. 2 falls, and he never recovered. So no change is the official result. After the inquiry, Asher Hong's score will remain the same. And so Vitaly Gumaras, the 22-year-old who was born right here in Dallas, gets his biggest career win back here in his hometown. The 2022 Winter Cup presented by Turn is brought to you by Ozone. Experience the difference. By Prevagen. Prevagen is the #1 pharmacist recommended memory support brand. And by Turn, dedicated solely to the sport of men's gymnastics. What a turn it was in the final few rotations, and Vitaly Gumaras comes back and gets the victory ahead of Coy Young. Asher Hong, who led most of the way, dropped to 3rd. Yul Moldauer, who had the lead going into the final rotation, he falls to 4th, with Colt Walker rounding out the top 5. So Vitaly Gumaras, the 22-year-old from the University of Oklahoma, the son of gymnasts, getting the victory in his hometown here tonight. And now for Nastia Lukin and Tim Daggett and our entire NBC Sports crew, I'm Steve Schlanger. Thanks for joining us, everyone, as Vitaly Gumaras has a career night getting the win. And now we say so long from the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, Texas.